Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy deadline stream, the final one of the season as we approach the Champions League final at Wembley between Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund. I haven't locked in my transfers yet, but 4 of them are pretty much set in stone. We have the Real Madrid lineup already. They always release it several hours in advance, and we'll find out Borussia Dortmund's starting lineup very soon as well. We've got 1 hour and 45 minutes until the deadline, which is obviously at kickoff, so be sure to knock in our teams and also address all your questions and comments as always in the live chat. Thank you for all your support throughout the season. We're looking to get to 24,000 subscribers by the end of the Euro tournament. If you haven't already, check out my Euro Fantasy content straight after this deadline stream is over. But of course, we've got that big game to look forward to later tonight. And as for the captaincy, there's kind of 3 or 4 contenders here for me, as I discussed in my team selection and the best wildcard and Limitless team video and podcast. Vinicius is currently my kind of preference, but Bellingham, Hummels and Rodrigo are other good options, I think. But I think Vinicius Jr., he has scored in a Champions League final before, scoring the winning goal against Liverpool. So at the moment, he is my captain, and I'll show you my kind of transfer plans very soon. But the 5th one isn't locked in, and I put out several polls, and I'll show you what the community have been voting for. But let's get straight into your comments as always. Be sure to smash the like button if you haven't already. Our aim is to get this video to 100 likes nice and early, and then push on towards 200 and beyond. So my team is Lunin, Rudiger, Hummels, Carvajal, Valverde, Bellingham, Royce, Brandt, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo and Füllkrug. Any suggestions, Dylan? Well, Lunin won't start. That's already confirmed. Courtois is in the lineup. And Lunin supposedly has a virus, but I think it was always the plan to start Courtois in goal. Lunin is on the bench there. So that's definitely one priority for you. Your defensive line is absolutely okay. You've got pretty much the 3 best defenders you can buy. I think Schlotterbeck in isolation is better than Rudiger and Carvajal, but you probably back Real Madrid to win the game and or keep a clean sheet. As for your midfield, no issues with that whatsoever. I don't think you're really missing anybody per se. You could say a Toni Kroos in his final ever game for Real Madrid. But honestly, I think your midfield is absolutely spot on, and the same goes for the forward line. I have to say though, I'm not really feeling Füllkrug in this match, and I could be completely wrong, but even when he scores this season, he gets 5 to 6 points, and I'd rather go for a defender who's more likely to produce a return, and I'm looking at Real Madrid defenders once again, so you've already got Rudiger and Carvajal, so maybe a Ferland Mendy or Nacho, but that's just the way I see it, and maybe you could go for Toni Kroos instead. But honestly, that 5th transfer for a lot of us is quite difficult because I don't think there are many standouts. Most of them average 3 points per match day or even less, so you're not really sport for choice there. Sudindra says, hey Dylan, happy to watch your stream again since FPL. Regarding UCL, should I buy Rudiger or Carvajal? Not much in it. I'd probably go for Rudiger. Sancho or Kroos? I think I'd go for Sancho. And Rodrigo or Füllkrug? Definitely Rodrigo there, 100%. Been watching your Euros content, can't wait for the competition to start and watch your Euros deadline streams too. Supporting Belgium in this tournament, going to be huge underdogs. They definitely will. Their golden generation has sailed away. And yeah, on the 14th of June, I will be there for the deadline stream, so be sure to tune in for that. That's in less than 2 weeks' time, and I've actually already uploaded the first draft video, and a how to play guide is coming up next. It's already available for channel members and patrons, and also an updated draft and a chip strategy guide is also coming your way. Which player is best for the captain? Probably Vinicius or Bellingham for me, if I had to narrow it down. Then it becomes very difficult. I think Vinicius is a bit more experienced in the Champions League, and he's done it before in a final. With Bellingham, you haven't really had that sort of consistency in the big games. I think this season you've kind of seen it as well. Bellingham had a great group stage, but in the knockouts, only 1 assist against Leipzig. He has been quite anonymous in most of these games. Even beyond the goals and assists, his overall performances haven't been great in my opinion. So I'd probably say Vinicius Jr., but Bellingham is second, and the fact he's facing his former club, I think it does add a bit of spice and also motivation for him to be the player of the match. And I think whoever stands out in this game between Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. will likely win the Ballon d'Or. I completely forgot about my team. Will be following, going with the Limitless, says Wesley. Good luck. Check out my best wildcard and Limitless team video. All of that is covered there. Ala Madrid says Man United is finished. El Padrino says big up Dylan, my guy. Thank you very much. So predictions for the final. I personally think 2-0 Madrid win. I've currently gone for a 3-1, but it's kind of difficult. I think 2-0 is definitely possible. I can see where you're coming from. I would say 1-0 as well, but we've had 4 consecutive Champions League finals ending 1-0, so surely we get a different scoreline this time, and I think we will. Surely a bit more action-packed, you know, in terms of more goals, more opportunities, but yeah, I think 3-1, 2-0 is what I'm going for. I'll stick with 3-1 at the moment, but I'll show you my predictor very soon. Best differential. Best differential. Quite tricky at this stage of the competition. I like Rodrigo a lot, but he's still owned by 16% of the game. I think you'd probably look at Courtois in goal. I know it's a goalkeeper, but his ownership is 4%. I think Courtois will be kind of overlooked. Most people will have Kobel or Lunin still. And of course, Lunin isn't starting the Champions League final. Good evening to you as well, Courage, and welcome to Angel Gashaga. My team is pretty much template. This is the difficult thing about UCL Fantasy at this stage of the competition because we're limited to 2 teams. You're not sport for choice, and if anything, I'm struggling for that final slot in my midfield or defender, in the starting 11 pretty much, and I can understand where you're coming from. Good to see you, Thomas. Thank you very much for tuning in. I think Brahim Diaz is worth a punt. I mentioned him actually in my last 2 videos and podcasts for UCL Fantasy. I know he's not starting today, but off the bench, I could see Brahim Diaz being the difference maker for both teams, either Dortmund or Real Madrid. I think he's the most likely to come off the bench and score the winner in the Champions League final. 5-0 Dortmund win. I mean, I wish, but that's just not going to happen, is it? How's it, Dylan? How's it, everyone? Good to see you, Dave, as always, and welcome to Gary. Dortmund lineup, we'll see it very soon, but in fact, we might as well go through the Real Madrid lineup already since it's been out for an hour now at this point. So, this is what they've gone for. Courtois is in goal with Carvajal, Rudiger, Nacho, and Ferland Mendy. Valverde, Camavinga, Kroos, and Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Vinicius Jr., and everyone is back. So Lunin, Alaba, and Tchouaméni are all on the bench, but I'm not so sure if they'll be fit enough to play, especially in the case of Tchouaméni, who is pretty much kind of prioritising the Euros, so to speak. But of course, this is a Champions League final. It's the biggest game of them all, with the exception of the World Cup final. But yeah, that is Real Madrid's lineup, and not many surprises there. It's been kind of touted for weeks that Courtois would start in goal, despite Lunin being very impressive for Real Madrid. You could say he's been harshly treated. Carlo Ancelotti said yesterday that Lunin has a virus, but I think that's kind of covering the cracks and pretty much covering the reason that, you know what, they just want to start Courtois anyway. As for Borussia Dortmund, we haven't got the lineup yet, but once we do get it, I will let you know, and you'll see it on screen, and we can talk about it. Wouldn't expect too many surprises, possibly one, but most of it should be as usual, you know, and what we've seen in the semi-finals and in all the knockout games in this season's Champions League. I put 2 polls out on my channel earlier. One of them is to vote for your favourite captain. Vinicius with over 60% of the vote. In second is Bellingham with 22%. Hummels in third with 11%. And then we've got Rodrigo with just 3% of the vote. And the other option also sharing 3%. As for this poll, which is kind of in relation to my transfer plans and my 5th move, Toni Kroos wins the vote with 43%, or is winning, because we still haven't had too many votes just yet. In second is Sancho at 24%, Carvajal's in third, and Schlotterbeck is last with just 10% of the vote. I have to say though, with Schlotterbeck, he can still give you 3-4 points despite conceding, but I do think Madrid could score 2 or 3 goals here today, and I'm not too keen on buying another Dortmund defender. I've already got Maatsen and Mats Hummels, which is more than enough coverage for me personally. Could we see an upset today? Of course we could, but the likelihood is that Real Madrid will win their 15th Champions League title, and hopefully it's interesting at least, and we don't get a one-sided final. And here we go with the predictor. I've gone for 3-1 Madrid, with Madrid to score first and Bellingham to be player of the match, but it's between him and Vinicius really, and I might just cover all bases. So I've got Vinicius captain in UCL Fantasy, and I've Bellingham as the player of the match in the predictor. I might just cover all bases that way, but Vinicius has really stepped up in the knockouts, that's for sure. And you know what, we might as well go through my transfer plans now. And of course, we'll see the Dortmund lineup soon, and that could maybe inform my 5th transfer. So this is how my team looks like without making transfers. And these 4 players are likely to come in, all from Real Madrid: Courtois, Carvajal, Valverde, and Rodrigo. Of course, some of them are just completely going to happen. You know, Courtois and Rodrigo, I'd say, are 100% going to be in my team. Then Valverde and Carvajal, maybe a bit less locked in, but I think I will buy them as well. And as for the 5th transfer, it's pretty much in relation to that poll I showed you just a few minutes ago. So I could buy Toni Kroos or Sancho in the midfield. Even up front, I could go for Füllkrug. I could do that as well. And in the defensive line, Schlotterbeck, maybe Nacho or Mendy could come in, and I'd go for a 4-4-2 formation. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards at the moment, going for another Madrid defender and kind of banking on that clean sheet for Los Merengues. But that isn't going to be, I'd say, locked in. It's not absolutely guaranteed. Madrid, as good as they aren't the most solid of teams defensively. And one other update, actually, and this time it's about Borussia Dortmund. Sebastian Haller has recovered from an ankle injury, so he is in contention to start the Champions League final, but most likely he'll be on the bench. And we've still got a few players out for Dortmund, I believe, like Mori, Duranville, and Ben Sabani. We might see one or two of them on the bench, but you wouldn't expect them to really feature in this Champions League final. So I'll leave that for now, and very soon we'll be going through the Borussia Dortmund lineup and just giving our thoughts on it. Let's see what Akash is saying. Behind first by 5 points in my mini league. Need to get a lead. Would it be wiser to take 3 Madrid defenders plus Courtois as a clean sheet, jam hopefully, or not buy a Madrid defender and go for either Sancho or Brandt? I'd personally favour the 3 Madrid defenders and Courtois because I think Madrid will win the Champions League final, and I'd also rather go in that direction than the Dortmund midfielders, who are good options, but I'd probably go for the Madrid defenders. Already have Maatsen, Hummels, Sabitzer and Valverde. Yeah, I'd stick with that option there. I'm using Limitless chip now. What do you suggest? I have made a video on it, best wildcard and Limitless team, and I discussed the best starting 11 using those chips. I think really what I'd recommend is piling up on Real Madrid. That's the way I see it, and it's risky. I've sometimes got it right, and I sometimes got it completely wrong in a Champions League final, and it has resulted in, I think, some red arrows in Matchday 13 and also some missed opportunities and, you know, a bit of regret. But I think I'd go for 7 Madrid players at least, possibly 8 if I'm using that chip. And yeah, I think I'd load up on the Madrid defenders, go for Rodrigo and Vinicius up front, Bellingham in the midfield, as well as Valverde. And then you could add a Toni Kroos if you wish. But yeah, no matter what you do, even if you back Madrid to win it, have Mats Hummels in your team. He's the best defender in UCL Fantasy. Skintech says Brandt or any Madrid midfielder except Kroos and Jude. I'd go for Valverde. For me, he's the second best Madrid midfielder behind Bellingham. In third is probably Toni Kroos. Julian Brandt is still a good option, of course, but I'd go for the Uruguayan Valverde. Bruno Marquez says, Hola Dylan, about formation, do you think it's better 3 or 4 defenders? My current inclination is to go for 4 defenders. And I think I'm going to be selling Marquinhos to, at the moment, I'm looking at Mendy or Nacho. So yeah, I'd probably lean towards 4 defenders. I'm not a big fan of Fulkrug or most midfielders except Bellingham, Valverde, and maybe a Julian Brandt or Sancho. Apart from those players, I don't think there are many options in the midfield. So I'd go for 4 defenders there. Daniel says, Excelente trabajo, Dylan. ¿Me recomiendas 3 delanteros, Vinicius, Rodrigo y Fulkrug, o solo los 2 defensores del Madrid? O delanteros. Sí, yo creo que 2 delanteros es mejor, con Rodrigo y Vinicius Jr. Y yo prefiero tener otro defensor, como Rudiger, Nacho, Carvajal y Ferland Mendy. Omar says, best replacement for Mbappe, Kane, Sane, Hakimi, Carvajal. Well, it goes without saying, right? Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Hummels, they're all the best options to replace them. Not sure why he'd replace Carvajal, though. You know, he's going to start the Champions League final. He's a decent option. I'd keep him. So just focus on the other players instead. And yeah, I'd buy Hummels, Rodrigo, Bellingham, and Vinicius. Courtois in the lineup. We've covered it already. Courtois in the lineup, and Lunin is on the bench. Of course, he just came back from an injury several weeks ago. Is there a chance he is subbed off in the Champions League final? There is. I won't deny that. But I still think he'll play the full 90. If it goes to extra time, he'll play that as well. And he could be the difference maker, as he was several years ago. Best defender from Madrid, not Rudiger. Probably Carvajal. Best squad for Limitless is covered in the Limitless and Wildcard team video. To kind of sum it up, off the top of my head, I'd go for Courtois in goal. And I'm just talking about the starting 11, by the way. In the back 4, I'd go for Hummels, probably Carvajal, Rudiger, and Ferland Mendy. A midfield 4 of Bellingham, Valverde, probably Brandt and Sancho, and up front Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. That's what I'd go for on the Limitless or Wildcard. Madrid to win 3-1. Yeah, hopefully we get some goals, but it's not guaranteed. So Derek says Mendy or Rudiger. Probably Rudiger for me. Nelton says, what up, bro? Let's go for the final match. Let's go with this. A player from the bench that can score. Yeah, Brahim Diaz for me, definitely. As I just mentioned, I mentioned it in all my videos and podcasts for UCL Fantasy and already in this stream. It has to be Brahim Diaz for me. I didn't know the lineup was out. They love going early on the lineups. Yeah, Real Madrid always go early with the lineups. As for Borussia Dortmund, we should get it within 20, 30 minutes. Cruz last game for Real Madrid. Yes, and of course, the Euros will be his last tournament in football. Yeah, that's kind of... I know we shouldn't look too much into these narratives, but the fact this is his last game makes me a bit tempted to buy him, but I don't think it's a great UCL Fantasy option. And against Borussia Dortmund, he's only got one goal against them throughout his entire career, and that came during his time at Bayern Munich. And I think during his time there in Germany, he actually had a poor record against Dortmund in terms of losses, but unbeaten for Real Madrid against the Yellow and Black Army. Yep, Madrid lineup is out. Don't worry, we've covered that. Carvajal, Mendy or Hummels? I still go for Hummels just because of how good he is for ball recoveries. Even if Madrid win by 2 or 3, I think Hummels can give you 4 or 5 points. On cruise control, yeah, I mean, I think he'll be a difference maker in the final, but in terms of UCL fantasy points, I don't really back him to get many. I don't see him scoring or assisting, but you never know. Courtois turns into a wall of China whenever he plays in UCL final. To be fair, he's only played in one, but I mean, what a performance to go off. I mean, he was incredible against Liverpool. If it wasn't for him, you probably would argue Liverpool would have won that game quite comfortably. Your 5th transfer makes you have 12 players, right? Yes. Who would I skip? Probably Maatsen. I think Maatsen or Sabitzer would be the ones dropping to the bench. One of those. But yeah, I just need to determine that 5th transfer first of all, and then I can decide on who to bench. But yeah, I think Brandt would start for me. Hummels as well. At the moment, I think Sabitzer is the most likely to drop to the bench, now looking at it. Cruz, a pick trying to be different. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what his ownership is. I'll have a quick look now. Only 6%, yeah. I mean, that's a good differential. For some of you looking to maybe chase a mini-league, you're very close to the top. I think Toni Cruz could be decent, but once again, you look at his returns this season, just like Fulkrug, 5-6 points at the max, generally gives you 3-4 points. It's not really inspiring. Best differential, I think I've said this before to you, Courtois in goal at 4% ownership will be a differential. Outfield players, I think Rodrigo. I know it might be simple, but some people might go for Fulkrug instead or focus on midfielders and defenders. And there are some people who are struggling to get to 8 players, let alone 11, and they might not be able to go to Rodrigo in the first place. So I'd say Rodrigo. Carvajal or Hummels? Hummels still. Notkish says, hello Dylan, I want to take a captaincy punt because I'm some points behind my mini league leader. Who should I take on? I'm currently on Hummels. Vinicius is the most popular in terms of engaged managers, but his ownership is only 26%. Let's not forget that. So captaining Vinicius over Bellingham is still, I'd say, a differential in the grand scheme of things. But you know what? I'd go for Rodrigo if you want to go real differential with the captaincy. Eduardo says, hey Dylan, are you happy with your performance this year in UCL? Yeah, relatively happy. Of course, there are maybe some regrets, some gripes I've had with certain match days, with decisions, a bit of variance going the other way. But yeah, I'd have to say I'm quite happy overall. I think my biggest regret would be going for Vinicius over Mbappe in Matchday 7. Of course, Vinicius has ended up being the better option, but in Matchday 7 and 8, that really burned me, and it actually resulted in a red arrow to kick off the knockout stages. So that's probably the thing that springs to mind for me. So yeah, going for Vinicius over Mbappe in Matchday 7, it was the right decision long term, but I did lose some ground by going for it from the get-go. Do I go for Rudiger or Cruz as my last Madrid player? I'd probably go for Rudiger. I think if Madrid keep a clean sheet, you could easily see a 7-8 pointer from Rudiger. With Cruz, I mean, you're probably looking at 3-4 points. You know, the most likely scenario anyway. Sancho or Valverde? I'd go for Valverde. Cruz, potential player of the match bias due to last game. That's true. That is true. But the panel that awards it is the UEFA panel. And I'm not sure what their exact criteria is. But yeah, you might be right. That could be something to look at. And you could see a 7-8 pointer as a result, possibly 9 points. But yeah, I'm just not a big fan of Cruz in UCL Fantasy or any fantasy format. Cruz now might win more Champions Leagues in 10 years than Barcelona in 125 years, says Man United is finished. Salah Goat says, best captain. Probably Vinicius for me, but in second I put Bellingham, third Rodrigo, and fourth Hummels. Kuka says, mate, thanks for all the content this year. We'll be doing lives for the Euros. Yeah, that's the plan. I did it for the last Euros as well. And yeah, on the 14th of June, I'll be there doing a deadline stream in the build-up to Scotland versus Germany. So yeah, the answer is yes, and there's already Euro Fantasy content on the channel. Any reason you're playing 4-4-2 over 3-4-3 or 3-5-2? Not sure either team will keep a clean sheet. Yeah, that's a fair point. It's just, you look at the midfielders and forwards, and there are several that are essential in my opinion. Vinicius, Rodrygo, Bellingham, you'd maybe say a Brandt or Sancho and Valverde. But apart from that, the options are quite limited, and you're looking at players who average 2 to 3 points per match day. And with defenders, you have players capable of ball recoveries like Schlotterbeck and Hummels, and I think Madrid are quite likely to keep a clean sheet. That's the way I see it. And if you look at the last 5 Champions League finals, I think one of them was 2-0, Liverpool versus Tottenham, and then every single final since has been 1-0. So the games tend to be cagey, there aren't many chances or goals, and that's why going for defenders is generally a good play in the last couple of years since I've been doing UCL Fantasy. Sancho or Brandt? Probably Brandt. Is it wild to go for a defender captain? Not really, not in UCL Fantasy, but I do think Madrid will score. And you look at the best defender in the game, that's Mats Hummels. He could give you 4 or 5 points regardless of what happens, but I think I'd rather go for a midfielder or forward in this game. I know what I just said about games being quite tight and low scoring, but no matter what happens, I think Madrid will score. Royce deserves it for his first UCL trophy, but Cruz also deserves it since his last game for Madrid. He's already got 4 or 5 Champions Leagues though, so I'd rather Royce gets it, but honestly, who even cares at this point? Sabitzer or Sancho, says Jack. Sancho for me. Won't be surprised if Carvajal gets booked. Every match day he gets booked, except when he gets suspended. Yeah, I mean, look, with Carvajal, he's got a bit of assist potential. He's not great for ball recoveries, and Madrid aren't the most reliable team defensively. But yeah, I think Carvajal is still a decent option. Rudiger would be just ahead in the pecking order. None of them come close to Hummels or Schlotterbeck, but when you look at clean sheet probabilities, you're always going to back Madrid from that perspective. So that's the way I see it. So we do have almost 200 people watching, so be sure to smash the like button and get the stream to over 100 likes nice and early. And I'm going to turn off subscribers mode because this is a calmer stream to what we used to in other UCL Fantasy streams. Since we're at the end, we're limited to just 2 teams and the options aren't really there as they were in previous stages of the competition. But I might have to do a bit of editing here. Let me just go to this screen quickly and see. No, that's not too bad actually, but let's see if I can change this as well and see how that looks. Just give me a second. We will be going for the Dortmund lineup very soon once it comes out, and it might have done already, but I'm going to have to double check that myself. All right, so let's see how that looks. Yeah, not too much difference there. All right, that's all good. So we've got 1 hour, 22 minutes until the deadline. We went through the Madrid lineup already. Courtois starting in goal and pretty much the usual in the outfield positions. No real surprises there. And with Borussia Dortmund, we should get it in the next 20, 30 minutes. Yeah, so far we haven't gotten it yet. But yeah, just a matter of time before that happens. Sancho or Adeyemi? Sancho. And with Adeyemi, we're not even sure if he starts. Yeah, Sancho for me. Sancho or Cruz? Generally speaking, I prefer Sancho, but for this Champions League final, I'm going to go for Toni Kroos. Play Füllkrug or Rudiger? I'd go for Rudiger. I remember watching a short about the UCL final, and a City fan said BVB would win 8-0. Yeah, no comment on that. Kroos, Modric or Sabitzer? Kroos. Jack puts his team, so Kobel, Hummels, Maatsen, Rudiger, Jude, Sancho, Vinicius. Think I fancy playing 3-4-3 with new additions Carvajal, Valverde, Brandt, Rodrygo, Füllkrug. Yeah, looks fine. I personally am backing Madrid to win, and you've got quite a lot of Dortmund players in there, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but triple Dortmund defence doesn't really sit right with me, going for Kobel, Hummels and Maatsen. I know they've been great in the entire tournament, in the group of death and also in the knockout stages, but yeah, that's my only concern with your team, Jack. I think having too much defensive coverage from Dortmund, so I'd maybe address that, but it's still looking pretty good overall. And with that 3-4-3 formation, you could start Hummels, Rudiger, and well, you're not buying any defender, are you? But yeah, I see what you're trying to do there. I'm just a bit concerned about the defensive line. Keshav says, should I take a -4 hit to include 11 players? I don't think so. Unless the hit would include buying a Vinicius, a Rodrygo or Bellingham. I don't think it's worth it at this stage of the competition. Is Kobel to Courtois a wasteful transfer or not? I don't think it's a wasteful transfer, actually. And Kobel's been incredible this season, but Courtois, more likely to keep a clean sheet. He's done it in a Champions League final before, and a lot of us are backing Madrid to win it. So I don't think it is. Don't do it for a hit, though. Last dance of the season, yeah, it is, but we do have the Euros in just 13 days, so it doesn't really feel like it. All Madrid defence, I'd still go for Hummels, but the rest, yeah, I'd probably recommend Courtois, Rudiger, Fela Mendy, and all those players. Nacho, Carvajal, take your pick. Jeremy says, Dylan, the player in first in my mini league or money league team is similar to my team, and he'll most likely captain Vinicius. Should I captain someone else or keep my captaincy on Vinicius? Well, there's always this kind of question, right, about when you're chasing somebody, do you kind of just go for what you think is the best scenario, so captaining Vinicius, or do you go different for the sake of it? Now, if you are able to go different with your transfers and buy a Toni Kroos, who your mini league rival doesn't have, or you can buy someone else entirely, maybe that's the route I'd recommend, but I'd only go against Vinicius as the captain if you genuinely think he can actually outscore. By the way, I need to change something, I just realised, so apologies, I'm going to do that in a second. But yeah, I'd only go against Vinicius for the captaincy if you genuinely believe someone can outscore him, like Bellingham, Rodrigo, or somebody else entirely. But yeah, because you're in kind of a very weird scenario, you could say, you might have your transfers locked in already. Yeah, if you have no other option, I'd go against Vinicius with the captaincy and go for Bellingham or Rodrigo. So let me just change that, actually. Yeah, we'll stick with what we had before. All right, there we go. All right, still no Dortmund lineup. I think we just get used to Madrid releasing the lineup so early. But yeah, it is what it is. Is it worth a -4 for 11 players? I just gave that answer, so let me know what you think. Gracias, Armando. Y buena suerte para la jornada 13. FPL, UCL, or Euros, what is your preference? I'd say UCL Fantasy. I've got quite a few years of experience in this game since the 2019 season, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's when it started, actually. And I don't know. I just find it fun. There is obviously some luck involved, variance, as you always get in fantasy formats. But yeah, I'd say UCL Fantasy is probably my favourite. We got Chris retiring before Modric and before GTA 6. Yeah, I mean, look, life is full of surprises, isn't it? And as for GTA, not releasing for that long, I don't think that's a surprise in particular. I'm just going to follow my gut tonight, Sancho to score. You have to do that, in my opinion. Whenever you play fantasy formats, whether it's FPL, UCL, World Cup Fantasy, Euro Fantasy, back your gut, otherwise you'll have regrets. Clips HQ says, hey Dylan, what are your thoughts on my team? So Carvajal, Rudiger, Mendy, Hummels, Brandt, Sancho, Valverde, Bellingham, Vinicius, and Rodrigo. Looks good, but you need a goalkeeper. If you can get one, that'd be great. But yeah, I wouldn't take a hit for a goalkeeper. It's very unlikely that it will pay off, although there are examples, of course, of that happening. Yeah, who you have is looking very strong. I don't have many kind of gripes with the team. Yeah, I think it's a very, very solid squad. If you can add Courtois, I'd also recommend that as well. My captain will likely be Vinicius Jr., but Bellingham is a very close alternative. I think the fact he's facing his former club really does tempt me. How good is Hummels? He's the best player in the game in terms of UCL fantasy points. 91, which is 26 more than Bellingham, who's in second place. Yeah, I mean, Hummels, it goes without saying, he's a great UCL fantasy option. Actually, now that I think about it, I have to double check that with Vinicius. I think he has missed some games. But yeah, let's see how many points Vinicius has, because that doesn't seem right, does it? No, yeah. Bellingham in second with 65, Vinicius in third with 60. I mean, and Hummels averages 7.6 points per game. It's incredible. The value he offers is tremendous. But looking at this final and my prediction of 3-1, yeah, I just think I can't captain him this match day. If it was match day 11 or 12, looking back on it, I probably should have captained Hummels on those days, but I thought PSG would score. They had so many chances, and how they didn't score across both games is a big mystery. But yeah, do you prefer him over other midfielders or forwards? I prefer him over everybody except Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Bellingham, I think. Brun or Adeyemi? Probably Brun. Are you excited for the new UCL format? I'm kind of cautious and a bit skeptical about it. I think it could cause some improvements, but I don't know. I've gotten used to this Champions League format, and Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm feeling a bit conflicted about it. Once it starts, I'll be able to give my full opinion on it, and I will cover it going into next season for UCL Fantasy. Joselu can do what he did in the last game. Well, he certainly can. With Madrid, anything's possible, but yeah, I don't think it will happen. Which two would you pick from Kroos, Sancho, and Füllkrug? Probably Sancho and Kroos, but it's quite close. I think all of them are quite similar in terms of fantasy prospects. You could argue Kroos is the worst of the lot, but with it being his final game, you know, you could sense something special happening there. Do you think the game goes to extra time? I don't think so. It's possible, but I'd say no. Sancho, Füllkrug, or Adeyemi? Sancho. Thank you for the super chat, Haribo. Massively appreciate as always. I'm 50 points ahead in my mini league. My heart wants to load up on Dortmund. Do you think I'm safe in my mini league going all out on Dortmund even if it goes wrong? You should be fine, but there's always, you know, you got to be a bit careful and at least cover Madrid with Vinicius, Bellingham, and I'd say Rodrigo. So as long as you have those three players, you should be good. 3 Madrid defenders and 1 Dortmund defender, or 2 of each. I'd go for 3 Madrid and 1 Dortmund, which would be Mats Hummels. He has to be in it. No, I'm not going to Wembley. I'm here doing the live stream, and I think prices are too expensive for that anyway. If I'm being completely honest, I don't really see this being much of a contest, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, but it's not really a game that interests me greatly. Thoughts on Sesko and Arsenal links? It's just links at the moment, so we'll wait and see what happens. He's got a lot of potential, but I'm not even sure if he'll go to Arsenal yet. If Joselu scores a last-minute winner, I'm going to support Man United. Be careful what you say, especially in a live stream. Sabitzer or Sancho? Sancho for me. Bagos Damaco says, what formation would be ideal? Thinking of 4-4-2 or 5-3-2, looking like a tight game, but with Dortmund ball recovery monsters, it can go high. Yeah, look, I always say this when people ask about formations. It's about the players, right? And because there aren't many good midfielders or forwards, I am kind of inclined to agree and say 4-4-2 is my preference. 5-3-2 is a shout, but I'd be saying 4-4-2 with Hummels, Rudiger, Carvajal, and probably a Nacho. Giuseppe says 3-5-2 with 3 BVB mids and 3 Madrid defenders, or 4-4-2 with a BVB and Madrid split in midfield and defence. My preference there would probably be the 4-4-2 because you'd have Valverde and Bellingham, I assume, in the midfield. Maybe you'd have Toni Kroos instead. And with the defenders, with Dortmund, you have those ball recoveries in Schlotterbeck, even Maatsen sometimes, and of course Mats Hummels. The new UCL Fantasy format is stupid. Why bother to change the OG one? To be fair, a lot of people have complained about the Champions League format needing a revamp, and the group stages tend to be boring for a lot of people. I mean, I'm not so sure what to think. I do like the traditional format. I think it could do some improvement, maybe with the pots or the group stage system and the draws, but yeah, we'll wait and see. The fact that you no longer play each team both home and away in the new group stage is awful. Yeah, I can understand some of your reservations and criticisms about it. I completely understand, and I have some of them myself, but I'll give it a chance and see how it goes, but I do kind of feel it's a bit unnecessary. Should I get both Tony and Royce? I'd probably just go for Toni Kroos, but that's just the way I see it. We still haven't got the Dortmund lineup, by the way. I would assume by 7 PM UK time we'll get it. But yeah, Marco Reus might not even start the game. And the only players I'd consider who would be bench players are Brahim Diaz and Joselu. Abhishek says Adeyemi, Füllkrug or Sancho. I would go for Sancho. Ezra says Maatsen, Hummels, Rudiger, Carvajal and Courtois for defence. Looks good to me. I have no problems with that. Will there be a watch-along, Dylan? Tonight, probably not. I'll probably stream a little bit into the game, but after that I'll be headed off. I'm not ruling out a watch-along in the future, but tonight, I mean, probably not. Sancho or Sabitzer? Sancho. Imagine Madrid 4-0 in the first half. I'll probably switch off, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to see that. And to be fair with Madrid, even though they always win the Champions League, they typically struggle, right? They go 1 or 2-0 down. They have to make a comeback last minute like they did against Bayern. So that kind of keeps you interested, but ultimately you sense there's an inevitability about their wins. I think 3-1 Madrid, Rodrigo 2 goals. I could see that happening, to be fair. No way Man United won the FA Cup. Well, they deserved it. They were the better team on the day. I think Man City were really off it and Man United punished them. What's the best captain? I've said this a few times today already. Vinicius for me is the best on paper, Bellingham is second, Rodrigo third, and Hummels fourth. I am tempted to go for Bellingham because of the old club kind of thing going on there, but Vinicius will likely be my final captain. Sabitzer or Carvajal? Probably Carvajal for me. Weiseng says, I wonder why they start Camavinga today. Well, Tchouameni is injured. He's on the bench, but I'm not sure if he's able to play. But yeah, Camavinga is a good player for Madrid, a bit underrated. He can play left back in the midfield. He's quite versatile there. I don't think he's a big issue. Any changes you want to see in UCL Fantasy next season? I'd have to think about that, to be honest. I do like the way UCL Fantasy is. The ball recoveries, for example, is one thing that makes it, I don't know, a bit more open than FPL, where the template is so constricted and strong. Changes, maybe a new booster, for example, especially because we have a new format. We've got a longer group stage. Yeah, so maybe another booster. What booster that would be, I'm not so sure. I'd have to think about it. Kobel or Courtois? In terms of saves, I think Kobel will make more saves. I'm guessing you're kind of anticipating both teams to score, and that's fair enough. From that perspective, I think Kobel could be better, but Courtois will still make plenty of saves, in my opinion. I'm going to go for Courtois personally because of the clean sheet chances, but in your case, the question you're asking, I'd say Kobel. What do you think about the new coach of Barcelona? Well, Hansi Flick did a great job at Bayern Munich. He won everything there. For Germany, it didn't really go according to plan, which I'm quite surprised by. But he, of course, was the assistant for them back when they won the World Cup 10 years ago. Yeah, I think Hansi Flick could be a very good appointment, but I think he'll be short-term. And maybe what Barcelona are hoping for is Hansi Flick as a stopgap for Pep Guardiola or something like that. Who knows? But I think he's a pretty good coach, but he's only done it at Bayern Munich so far. Who would you buy for Arsenal? Well, Arsenal need a striker. Ideally, I'd say Isak and Bruno Guimaraes in the midfield. They could be two great acquisitions, but to buy one of them will be difficult from Newcastle. To get both, I'd say nigh on impossible. And apart from that, I'd say another defender to add versatility there, and maybe a winger as well. Burma Gibson says, hi Dylan, I'm on 3-4-3 for my defence. Should I start Nacho or Schlotterbeck? I'd personally go for Nacho because of clean sheet chances. That's the way I look at it. The Dortmund lineup is out, so let's go through that right now and see what they've gone for. So, Kobel is in goal with Schlotterbeck, Sancho, Füllkrug, Hummels, Brandt, Sabitzer, Maatsen, Emre Can, Ryerson and Adeyemi. So they all start, and I believe Haller is on the bench. Yes, he is. So Meyer, Lotka, Oskan, Nemecha, Haller, Royce, Wolf, Makuku, Malen, Sula, Watjen and Bino Gittins all on the bench. So yeah, some of the names I talked about who are injury doubts, they are all out in terms of Mori, Duranville and Bensabani. As for Madrid, they've got everyone available, at least in their squad. Tchouameni's there, but very unlikely they will get significant minutes in this Champions League final. But we have covered the Madrid lineup already. I'll just leave it on screen for a little while longer. We'll see the graphic come up very soon for both teams. But no real surprises there. I know some of you might be by Lunin being dropped, but that's kind of been inferred by multiple journalists for the last couple of weeks. The plan was always to start Courtois in the Champions League final. So, yeah, let me know what you think of the lineups. What are your predictions for the game? I've currently got 3-1 Madrid with Bellingham player of the match and Madrid to score first, but that could change. Can't wait to watch Man United in the UCL next season. Oh, wait. Yeah, you've definitely got a United agenda, don't you? Oh, Man United fans, how the tables have turned. Yeah, but look, the FA Cup can't be diminished. It's a really good trophy. It doesn't really paper over the cracks of finishing 8th with -1 goal difference and all that, but it's a nice way of ending the season after having one of your worst campaigns ever. So, yeah, the FA Cup is always special in my opinion. It's the oldest cup competition in the world, and it's got a lot of history. Last transfer, Sabitzer, Brandt or Courtois? I'd say Courtois. And I normally don't go for goalkeepers, but in this scenario, I'm going to have to go for Courtois there. Yeah, lineup is out. Thank you very much. Also, some company to Bayern. As a Bayern fan, I'm oddly excited. It's a strange appointment. It could work out, but I don't know. It's a very risky appointment. It does seem like a lot of managers are rejecting Bayern, which is very strange. You have to maybe wonder why that's the case. Maybe the board have too much control, or the managers don't like the kind of terms that are being set on the deal. But let's wait and see. I think Leverkusen will kind of drop off next season, so there is a chance for Bayern to win the league again. But at the moment, it doesn't look great, I think, especially from those on the outside, and some Bayern fans will be kind of rightfully pessimistic, but within a matter of 2-3 years, Bayern will be back to winning leagues again. It's not going to be a big issue, in my opinion. Do you think Paqueta will be banned? Yes, I think he will. Carvajal captain, not for me. As much as I'm recommending 3 or 4 defenders, well, at the very least, especially from Madrid, I wouldn't captain a defender. Who are Bayern fans supporting today? That's a good question. I think some of them would support Borussia Dortmund. I mean, I'm not a Bayern fan. I can't speak on their behalf. But I think a lot of them would support Dortmund. Miguel says, running 4-4-2, Courtois, Carvajal, Maatsen, Schlotterbeck, Hummels, Belligol, Valverde, Sancho, Emre Can, Vinicius and Rodrigo. Yeah, I haven't really seen Emre Can in many teams. That could be a decent shout in terms of ball recoveries. He hasn't been great this season in terms of UCL Fantasy points, but yeah, I think that could be a decent differential, actually. He averages 3 points per match day. Yeah, I think Emre Can, 4 or 5 points is definitely possible. It's not a bad one. Not a bad one at all. So we've currently got 50 likes. Let's get this to over 100 nice and early. And yeah, thank you to those that are tuning in. As always, massively appreciated. Thank you, Bomber Gibson. Good luck to you as well. Rodrigo or Adeyemi? Come on. You know my thoughts on this. Rodrigo is in my top 3 captains for this match day. And for me, if you were to go for 2 forwards, it has to be Vinicius and Rodrigo. Hey, Ryerson or Rudiger? Rudiger for me. Sancho or Füllkrug, and why? Probably Sancho because he averages more points per match day, although there's not a massive difference. I just think Sancho's more likely to win the Player of the Match award, to get assists and goals combined. Whilst with Füllkrug, yeah, the goal threat is certainly there. I think in terms of goal-scoring chances, he's 3rd or 4th for this Champions League final. But yeah, has to be Sancho for me. Last transfer, Sabitzer, Brand or Courtois? I've covered this, mate. Sancho or Sabitzer, also covered. I would go for Sancho. Thank you to David. Going with Carvajal captain, goal and assist and clean sheet man of the match. That would be massive. It really would. With Luna not starting, do I take a hit to bring in Courtois? No, I wouldn't take a hit for a goalkeeper. Rudiger or Schlotterbeck? I'd go for Rudiger. Company to Bayern is quite interesting. That's one way of putting it. It might turn out, pretty well, but at the moment it looks very risky. Cruz captain for differential? Look, it's his last ever game for Real Madrid. You just never know, but typically in the Champions League, he doesn't really get many points. 5-6 is kind of his limit, a bit like Füllkrug. That's not really a player I'd like to captain. I'd actually rather captain Hummels instead. Get Sabitzer or Brandt? Julian Brandt for me. I'll show my team soon, don't worry about that. I'm just showing the lineups because some people are tuning in now and they want to see what both teams are going with, so don't worry about that. Start Kroos or Füllkrug? Probably Toni Kroos. Paqueta got the Tonali mentality, if you know what I mean, and Ivan Toney. Do you know why FPL's transfer deadline isn't the first game kickoff like UCL and Euros? It can't be a hardware reason, can it? No, it's not a hardware reason. It's just a different developer of the game. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the team is. Behind it, it's the Premier League, but I'm not sure exactly how many people they have in that team. But yeah, with Euros, World Cup, and UCL, it's pretty much the same body making those games, especially Euros and UCL Fantasy. They're made by UEFA, and yeah, they kind of have a set policy. They're very consistent with their deadlines, and I do think it's better. Of course, there's always pros and cons for every single type of deadline, but I think having it at the first kickoff is the best way to go. I think Company is overhated. He's playing great football during their championship journey. We can see it's just the quality of players this season isn't enough. Yeah, that's a fair point, but I also think when you have a clear lack of quality and you're in the Premier League, there's a massive jump. You have to adapt a little bit and go a bit more defensive. I know it's not really ideal, but you have to also kind of level that because it increases your chances of staying in the division. Look at Sean Dyche with Burnley a few years ago, constantly keeping them up. Eventually he did get relegated, that is true, but yeah, I do think the way Company set his teams up, I think sometimes was a bit naive. But of course, he's a young manager, he's got his principles and ideals, and they might suit a bigger and better club like Bayern, but you have to be tactically flexible in my opinion. What to do for Limitless transfers? Was it unlimited? Check out my best wildcard and Limitless team video, and you'll see everything I've talked about there in terms of the best starting 11, the transfers, and the kind of structure in terms of Madrid versus Dortmund for the Champions League final. I think I'm going to get Royce still. That's fair enough. Play the game your way, and I wish you the best there. But in terms of players who are on the bench, I'd probably consider Brahim Diaz and Joselu maybe. Not anyone else really. Royce would be third on that list. I can see what you're doing there. It would be a dream ending if he could come off the bench and score the winner. Let's wait and see. Best Dortmund midfielder besides Sancho, Julian Brandt. And if anything, I'd argue Julian Brandt is maybe slightly better, but that's definitely down to interpretation. Loki forgot the UCL final is Cruz's last Madrid game. What a legend. Yes, he is retiring at the end of the Euros. And the announcement came just a few weeks ago, which caught everyone by surprise. So Thibaut Courtois, Rudiger, Hummels, Carvajal, Cruz, Bellingham, Valverde, Sancho, Sabitzer, Vinicius, Rodrigo. Any thoughts? Standard stuff. I like the team. I do slightly prefer maybe Julian Brandt over Sabitzer, but that's really down to fine margins. Overall, a very solid squad. I'm kind of looking at that build. Maybe instead of one of your midfielders, I'd probably go for another defender. But yeah, overall, very happy with the team. I wouldn't take a -4 hit for a goalkeeper, to be honest, Gabriel. I don't think it's worth it. Unless you're absolutely convinced about Courtois keeping a clean sheet, that's really the only way it pays off. And which is the best defender of Real Madrid for today? Probably Rudiger. Brandt or Sancho or Sabitzer, says Helena. I would go for Julian Brandt. Start Mendy or Rudiger? Rudiger. Valverde, Brandt, Sabitzer, 2 to start. The first two, Valverde and Brandt. Smith says, only have 4 players left from the last match day. Got too reckless. Is the -4, -8 worth it? I personally look to just use your free transfers and that's it. Get to 9 players. Because really the players that are essential, that are worth hits would be Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, and maybe Hummels. I think those 4. Apart from that, I don't think many players are worth a hit. Of course, we can get surprises, and in years gone by, you had Kai Havertz scoring the winner against Manchester City. You also had a few other examples like Coman scoring the winner against PSG. But yeah, it's really difficult to nail down that kind of differential who does the difference and that can really pay off a hit like that. But with those 4 players I mentioned earlier, they've been consistent in this Champions League. They've done it before in big games, and you know you're going to get a return from those 4, generally speaking. So I'm not so sure if I take a hit. Maybe a -4, maybe, but I think that's pushing it. Either company to buy and ends up a smart move or really stupid appointment. I see what you're saying. It will either be brilliant or it will be stupid. I see what you're saying. Bench 1. Fulkrug, Valverde, Matson or Carvajal. I'd probably go for Fulkrug on the bench, that air. I think that's what I'd go for. So, let me now go to my team. We've shown the lineups already for quite a while. So let's go to the transfer section and lock in the final UCL Fantasy team of the season. We've got less than an hour left for the deadline. So Rodrigo, Valverde, Carvajal and Courtois will likely come in for me. Then it's about that 5th player, that 5th transfer. And the most likely would be Nacho or Mendy in the defence, Schlotterbeck as an alternative, Toni Kroos or Sancho in the midfield, and up front, maybe a Fulkrug. Even bench players like Brahim Diaz and Hoslu could be decent. Marco Reus, as someone mentioned earlier. But I think a defender or midfielder is kind of what I'm looking at. And yeah, for the next hour, I'll probably be deliberating on it. But I want to lock in these transfers already and just have this set up just in case. So yeah, Rodrigo, Valverde, Carvajal, Courtois. I'm quite happy with all of them, to be fair. So yeah, I'm going to buy all of them. And I have 1 free transfer left. So I'm selling Mbappe, Lunin, Sane and Hakimi for Rodrigo, Courtois, Valverde and Carvajal. So yeah, those transfers are done. I'll now bring in Valverde for Emery. I've already got a starting 11, of course. And yeah, just 1 more transfer to improve this team. So my current setup, let's just change it to here. So my current setup would be Courtois in goal with Carvajal, Rudiger, Matson and Hummels as part of the back line. Bellingham, Valverde, Sabitzer and Brandt as part of the midfield with Vinicius and Rodrigo up front. And Vinicius is currently my captain. Bellingham is 2nd in my list for the captaincy. Rodrigo 3rd and Hummels in 4th. So yeah, I've got 4 Dortmund players in my starting 11 with 7 Madrid. I think my other transfer will be a Madrid player, and I'll go to 8 Madrid players overall and 3 from Dortmund. But as I've mentioned in the last couple of streams and videos, I think Dortmund have better UCL Fantasy options than Real Madrid. But in terms of chance of winning the game and of performing in this Champions League final, I'm going to have to go for Real Madrid there, which might be short-sighted. It might be, overlooking Borussia Dortmund quite significantly. But yeah, I do think it's a one-sided final in terms of the chances of winning it. It might be tight in terms of the scoreline, but ultimately, I do think it's quite inevitable what's going to happen. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Let's wait and see what happens there. But this is my lineup at the moment. One more transfer to improve this team. Let me know what you do in the live chat as well. Adair says, as a United fan, does it pain for you to see Sancho in great abilities at Dortmund compared to what he showed in Red? Did the pressure kill him in the Manchester and he feels more free in Dortmund? I'm not a Manchester United fan, to be honest. If anything, I'll say dislike. Well, maybe I do. But yeah, just speaking as a neutral in this kind of scenario, look, I just think Sancho suited Borussia Dortmund more. And you saw that a couple of years ago when he was one of the most coveted wingers in world football. And I just think Man United is a bit of a toxic environment, a bit like Chelsea in recent seasons. Very difficult for someone to thrive in that sort of environment. And of course, you had that kind of relationship with Ten Hag, which ultimately broke down. Of course, Sancho was also at fault to some degree with his attitude, you could argue, maybe how he performed in training. We don't know the full picture. But I just think Dortmund's a better fit for him. And the best move for his career does seem to be going back to Dortmund as part of a permanent transfer. I don't see him really working out at United in the long term. Brandt is on set pieces, so that is an advantage over Sancho. Yeah, and generally speaking, Brandt has been more consistent with the goal contributions compared to Sancho, although Sancho has been very impressive in certain games in the Champions League upon his return. Sancho versus Kroos. Generally, I'd say Sancho, but I'm going to go for Toni Kroos here. Last dilemma, Sancho or Sabitzer? Sancho. Fulkrug or Brandt? Julian Brandt for me. Well, we're getting Real Madrid and Atalanta in the Super Cup. Probably. We'll wait and see. Who will Royce come in for? In the starting 11 or in my team? I mean, kind of goes without saying who I'd... Yeah, in my team is quite obvious. But who would he come in for? I'd say Julian Brandt or Adeyemi, but a Dortmund fan will probably correct me in the live chat. Who to captain? Captain whoever you want, mate. I mean... I've said all along my preference, which is Vinicius Jr., Bellingham second, Rodrigo third, almost fourth. I might put a pin comment just so we don't have to go through that question. But yeah, Vinicius would be my answer at the moment. Fulkrug or Haller and Sabitzer or Royce. Fulkrug because he's starting, and I would go for still Sabitzer, but just about. Who's better between Brandt and Fulkrug? Brandt for me. Is there any point having a bench if you know your starting 11 is starting? No. In the Champions League final, there's not really a need for the bench. It doesn't really have an effect. Only for those that set their teams up early. They've got a starting 11 in place. One of the players misses out entirely, and then automatic subs take place. But you can't make manual substitutions in the Champions League final. The same will be for the Euros as well, which I covered in the How to Play guide. So be sure to check that out once it's out. Sancho or Fulkrug? Sancho. I've had this question quite a lot as well. Sancho. Is 5 at the back valid or too much? It is valid. Like I mentioned, in the last Champions League finals, last 5 Champions League finals, we've had 5 clean sheets basically. 2-0 and then 4 consecutive 1-0. So it's definitely viable. And with players like Hummels and Schlotterbeck who can get ball recoveries, yeah, more to it. Imagine if Kroos scores a last minute winner. I mean, has he scored a last minute winner before? I think... If I'm not mistaken, for Germany in the World Cup in 2018, he did that. I think he scored a last-minute winner or equaliser. But yeah, I just don't know if he's going to do that. Let's wait and see. Would you like to see Brandt and Havertz play together once again? I mean, we could see that at some point for Germany, but I don't really see Brandt going to Arsenal, and Havertz isn't going to go to Dortmund anytime soon. But who knows in football? It's a funny game. Got Rudiger, next 2 best Madrid defenders. Carvajal and probably Nacho for me. Best 2 Dortmund captains. Hummels in first, and in second, probably Sancho. Sancho or Brandt? I'd say Brandt. Brandt in second. Yeah. Start 1 of Mendy, Maatsen and Schlotterbeck. Depends on the rest of your defensive line. So if you've already got Hummels and let's say you've got a lot of Madrid coverage already, 3 or 4, then I'd go for Schlotterbeck there. Who's better between Brandt and Fulkrug? I've covered that. Royce, Valverde, Brahim Diaz or Modric? Valverde for me. Ryerson pretty good. Yeah, he's also decent. Maatsen or Sabitzer? Maatsen. I think Rodrigo will pull off a masterclass, maybe even a hat-trick. Yeah, I saw someone earlier say 3-1, and might have been you. By the way, that spamming is just completely dumb. I'm sorry. Yeah, no spamming in the chat, otherwise you'll be timed out or blocked. Guys, I'm 50 points behind with my friend, but I have the ability to change the whole team, and he doesn't. What do you recommend to do? Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. 50 points is almost insurmountable at this stage of the competition. Yeah, I mean, in your case, you have nothing to lose. I would have some difference makers or some differentials in there, but you're not going to make up 50 points. I mean, unless he takes many hits by accident or something. I mean, yeah, it's too difficult to do with only 2 teams available and a select few players to choose from. So, yeah, I'd have some differentials in there, but still captain of Vinicius or Bellingham if you feel they're the best captain, and ensure you have some essential players for me who are Hummels, Rodrigo, Bellingham and Vinicius in your starting 11. The best defensive captain, Hummels. Fulkrug, Adeyemi or Haller? Fulkrug for me. Haller's not starting. He just came back from an ankle injury. I wouldn't go there. Fulkrug or a midfielder? Midfielder. And I'd go for either Toni Kroos or Julian Brandt. Mourinho's going to manage Fenerbahce. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's officially confirmed yet, but it's pretty much close to being done. Maybe you should go Schlotterbeck for Maatsen. Ball recovery's potential, especially since Madrid will probably have a lot of the ball and they can win the ball off Vinicius and Rodrigo. Many runs at them. Yeah, that's a fair shout. Schlotterbeck has crossed my mind and he was in the poll I put out earlier. I might still go there, but I want to kind of, I'd say, focus more on Real Madrid, I think. Ready and about to chill the game and a beer. Cheers, Dylan. Thanks for your great work this season. Thank you very much, Gary, as always, for tuning in. And after the game is done, there is Euro Fantasy content available to you, the how to play guide and an updated draft. So be sure to check that out as well as part of the channel memberships and patrons. Who do you support? I support Arsenal in the Premier League. It's my local team. And I also support the Argentinian national team, which, you know, my family are from there. So, yeah, that pretty much covers it. Top 3 captaincy picks. Vinicius, Bellingham and Rodrigo in that order. Same team, but I have Sancho over Sabitzer. I do prefer that, to be fair. I think Sancho is a better option. Sancho should stay 100% at Dortmund, especially if they win tonight. One of my favourite players to watch when he's in form. Yeah, I mean, it's very likely he will stay. Maybe at least another year on loan. And that would be the best move for him. Kroos or Chan? Toni Kroos for me. And for this question as well, I'd go for Toni Kroos there, Godsent. Morpheus says Sancho versus Kroos. In here, I'd go for Sancho. Kroos or Hummels? Hummels. Fulkrug or Brandt? Brandt. Fulkrug or Sancho or Carvajal? Says Sharma. Sancho. Yeah, I think Sancho. Adeyemi is scaring me. Man is faster than Usain Bolt. Yeah, but I mean, look, he's got his moments, but he's mainly about pace. His decision-making can be questionable. Carvajal or Fulkrug? Carvajal. Captain for differential? Rodrigo. Brandt or Sancho, says Junaid. I'd go for Julian Brandt. Jonathan Lyman says, thanks for the vids, Dylan. Do you think 253 is the best way to hopefully score more points? Oh, sorry, I'm guessing that's a 352. I'm 2 points behind my mate, Vinicius captain, Rodrigo, Jude, Valverde, Kroos, Sancho, Brandt, Carvajal, Rudiger, Hummels, Courtois. Yeah, I do think a 352. I'd also look at 442, as I've mentioned a few times. So maybe going for another Madrid defender is what I'd be looking at. But your team looks very good, I have to say that. I'm just wondering if your mini-league rival also has Vinicius captain. He probably does. That could be another opportunity there, as someone asked me earlier. But yeah, looking at your squad, I do think you have 1 or 2 differentials in there that can make the difference and claw that 2-point deficit. Thank you, Julio Pena, for the super chat. Massively appreciated, as always. With free transfers, I would only get to 10. Should I take a -4 for a goalkeeper, or should I just focus on outfield players? Right. Okay, so I wouldn't take it for a goalkeeper, and I have been asked this before, and I'm going to stick to that answer. But let's say, for example, with 5 free transfers, you can get to 11 by making 4 moves in the outfield players and then buying a goalkeeper. Then obviously in that case, I'd go for the goalkeeper as part of 5 free transfers. But for a -4 hit, I just wouldn't do it. And instead, I would focus on the outfield players. Thank you very much, Julio Pena. Let me know which players you're buying, and good luck for Matchday 13. So I'm going to whiz through these so we can catch up to the chat. P3 Freestyler says Valverde or Sancho. Valverde. Sancho versus Cruz. Sancho. Maatsen or Füllkrug. Maatsen. Maatsen or Schlotterbeck. Schlotterbeck. Captain Vinicius or Bellingham. I'm currently going for Vinicius. 3-4-3 versus 4-4-2. My current preference is 4-4-2. Hope this UCL final ain't going to be boring like the last three. Look, even though Liverpool won 2-0, I have to say that's one of the worst finals I've ever seen against Tottenham. So it's really been 5 consecutive years, you could argue, of boring finals. Sabas out for Cruz or Maatsen out for Nacho? I would rather go for the defender transfer and buy Nacho, but Maatsen is a good player in UCL Fantasy. Thank you, by the way, Wasting, for moderating the chat. Maatsen captain or Courtois? Honestly, I'd say neither, but if I had to pick one, it would be Courtois, just because I think he has a better chance of a clean sheet. But captaining a goalkeeper, I'm not a big fan of it. Which defenders are better than Sancho? Hummels for sure. Then I'd be looking at Rudiger, Carvajal, and probably, yeah, I'd say a Nacho and Schlotterbeck. I think all of those players are better than Sancho for the Champions League final. I can be wrong about some of these things. And look, we can get a surprise goal from a Sancho or whoever it may be, Royce off the bench. But yeah, I would rather go for those defenders instead. Yeah, Mendy is playing. We covered the lineups already. So in case you aren't aware, let me just get this up here. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, so Real Madrid are going for Courtois in goal, Mendy, Nacho, Rudiger, and Carvajal as part of the back four. Camavinga, Cruz, Valverde, Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Vinicius. And then, yeah, as for Dortmund, no real surprises there whatsoever. It's what we've come to expect from them. So, yeah, Maatsen and Ryerson as the fullbacks, Kobel in goal, Hummels and Schlotterbeck as the two centre-backs with Emre Can, Sabitzer, Brandt, Sancho, Adeyemi, and Füllkrug. So, yeah, Mendy is starting. Okay, so I will be locking in my 5th transfer very soon. I might even forget at this rate if I don't get to it. But yeah, my 5th transfer will probably happen within the next 30-40 minutes. And of course, we have 34 minutes or 44 minutes until the deadline. Let's get this stream to over 100 likes. It'd be massively appreciated, especially if I answered your question or you're finding it entertaining or useful. Okay, so still a bit behind in the chat. I've got no Madrid defensive coverage. Maatsen, Schlotterbeck, Hummels, Kobel. What to do? Bring in Carvajal, Rudiger, Courtois. I would look to buy Courtois and Rudiger if possible. If I had to pick one, probably Courtois. Ryerson or Maatsen? I would go for Maatsen, but there's not much in it. One problem I have with Maatsen is he gets booked far too often. 3-4-3 puts D7. Yeah, good team. You've got Adeyemi in there as a differential. I'm not a big fan of him, but that could be decent. And the rest of your team looks very solid, although I'm not sure who your goalkeeper is. Maybe you don't have one. And yeah, I prefer Real Madrid for this game. I think they're more likely to win it. So I'd always recommend more Madrid coverage, especially in the defensive line. Felipe Garcia says, hi Dylan, good show. What is your score prediction? I'll just show you now. So I have gone at the moment for a 3-1 Real Madrid. I put Bellingham player of the match to kind of cover all bases. So I've got Vinicius captain in UCL Fantasy, and I might just go for Bellingham player of the match here. So I'm quite likely to get one of them right at least. And yeah, Madrid first team to score. And the booster is obviously active. If you are playing UCL Predictor, make sure to activate the booster so you can get double the number of points for your prediction. But yeah, I've gone for 3-1 Real Madrid. The last 4 finals have been 1-0. I don't see it happening another time, but let's wait and see if I'm wrong about that. Yeah, I think there'll be more goals in this one, and we could see a very entertaining final. Schlotterbeck or Carvajal? I have Rudiger, Hummels, and Maatsen. Depends if I do a 4-4-2 or 3-5-2. Well, I've said this before. Schlotterbeck is a better option in isolation because of ball recoveries, but I'm backing Real Madrid to keep a clean sheet, or at least they're more likely to keep a clean sheet than Borussia Dortmund. I just don't see, a scenario where Dortmund keep a clean sheet, whilst with Real Madrid there is that possibility for me. So I'd go for Carvajal. Especially with your situation where you have Hummels and Maatsen already. I think a triple up in Dortmund defensively, whilst it could work, I'd probably go against it. If neither team keeps a clean sheet, does that make Kobel a better option than Courtois because of save points? Arguably, yes, but let's not forget Courtois has made multiple saves in a Champions League final before, and it wouldn't surprise me if Dortmund dominated certain parts of the game. I know Madrid are the better team, but they kind of thrive off these situations where they struggle, their backs are against the wall, and maybe Dortmund have all the momentum, and then in the flick of a switch, just Real Madrid turn it around and end up winning the game. Should I play Toni Kroos or Sabitzer, or play Kroos or Brandt? Well, my favourite of the three players would be Brandt, but Kroos over Sabitzer for sure. I'm 940 in the overall rankings, and I'd like to attack. Is Rodrigo captaincy a good idea? I think so. He's third in my list of the captaincy rankings, but I do prefer Vinicius and Bellingham for this one. One free transfer left, Kobel in my squad. Should I bring in Courtois? I probably would, yeah. If you're happy with your starting 11 and the outfield players, I think that's an upgrade. Who for the captain? I think I'm just going to make a pin comment at this point because, yeah, we're getting this question quite extensively. But yeah, I'm going to show you my poll from earlier and refresh it and see if the votes have really changed anything. Yeah, not really. So Vinicius with 61% of the vote. Bellingham is second with 21%. Hummels in third with 11%. Rodrigo in fourth with 5%. He has a massive differential for the captaincy, and the other option has 3%. As for this question, which is in relation to my transfer plans, Toni Kroos is winning the vote with 41%. Carvalho is second with 26%. Sancho in third with a quarter of the votes. And Schlotterbeck is last with just 8% of the votes. I've already bought in Carvalho, so it's between the other three, I think, for the last transfer, although that isn't entirely locked in. I'm still considering Füllkrug up front, Ibrahim Diaz or Joselu, hoping for a bit of jam off the bench. And then there's also a few other defenders like Felamendi or Nacho from Real Madrid as well. But yeah, we've covered the lineups already. No real need to go through them again. And yeah, the predictor, I'll see if I have a change in heart for the scoreline. I'm kind of torn between 3-1 and 2-0, but the end result is the same with Real Madrid lifting the trophy. That is my prediction. Let's go back now to my team. And like I said, in a short while, I will be making my final transfer and locking in the last UCL Fantasy team of the season. Valverde, Brandt, Kroos, Sancho, select two. Valverde and Brandt. I think Chan and Kroos are good differentials and they are decent. They're good in ball recoveries. The thing is, I'm not so sure if Kroos is that great for ball recoveries. I think he can get you a ball recovery point, but he's not a Mats Hummels, for example, who can give you 2-3 points from ball recoveries alone. You might be onto something there, but I just don't really see Kroos as an amazing UCL Fantasy option. Yeah, that was the case. 3-4-3 versus 4-4-2, says Junaid. At the moment, I'm kind of leaning towards 4-4-2. Thank you, Luis. Goalkeeper, Courtois for me. Kroos versus Sancho. Sancho. Good luck, lads, says Weiseng. Likewise. Füllkrug or Sancho? Sancho. Why does Dortmund not want Sancho? I remember reading that they don't want to buy him. I'm not so sure, to be honest. It might have just been a short-term ploy, just for the season. But who knows? A great performance today, and that could change. I'm not sure where you saw that, but you know, it might have been from a reliable source. I'm always a bit kind of skeptical when I see rumours like that anywhere. Rudiger or Maatsen? I'd go for Rudiger. Schlotterbeck or Füllkrug? Schlotterbeck. Maatsen or Füllkrug? Maatsen. Sancho or Sabitzer? Sancho. Courtois in for Donnarumma. Lunin on the bench in case he gets injured in the pre-match. Yeah, that's a solid plan. That kind of crossed my mind when I made the transfer and bought Courtois in. -8 or play with, without two players help. I just play without two players and go for 9 with 3 transfers there, Ricardo. In that order reminds me of Bale's Golf, Madrid and Wales. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Emre Can or Toni Kroos? Toni Kroos. Kobel is that bad? No, I never said that. Kobel is a great UCL Fantasy option, but I just think Madrid are much more likely to keep a clean sheet. Best BVB captain? I covered your question earlier, mate. Hummels for me. And in second would be Sancho. Sorry, Brandt. Sancho will be third. Thanks, Dylan. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Sancho or Brandt? I'd go for Brandt, but there's not really much in it. Kroos or Carvalho? Carvalho. Maatsen or Rudiger? Rudiger. Valverde, Tony or Emre Can or Brahim Diaz? Valverde. Emre Can or Sancho? Close, but I'd go for Sancho. And yeah, I think people who are asking about Emre Can, that's a good shout, but I would go for Sancho. Hummels captain? Not for me. He's fourth in my list. I'd rather go for Vinicius, Bellingham and Rodrigo. Which defenders are better than Sancho? I think you asked this earlier, mate, and I covered it. So Hummels, Rudiger, Nacho and Carvalho. And I'd maybe even say Schlotterbeck as well. I've got no Madrid defensive coverage. Maatsen, Schlotterbeck, Hummels, Kobel, what to do? Yeah, I think you asked this before, mate. I'd ideally buy Courtois and Rudiger. If I had to pick one, I'd buy Courtois. Chelsea versus City, not really boring. I personally found it boring, but that's just me. I thought the 2019 UCL final was your favourite since Spurs lost. Not really. I mean, it was a boring game. I mean, yeah, the result was good for Arsenal fans, but it doesn't, kind of get rid of the fact it was boring. Brandt or Sancho? Yeah, I'm going to go for Brandt again, but this is a very close call, 50-50. I'm going to go for Brandt. Why Maatsen over Schlotterbeck? I already have Maatsen. If I had a choice, yeah, I mean, I think Schlotterbeck is a slight upgrade. Maatsen gets too many yellow cards for my liking, but yeah, I don't know. If I were to make another transfer, I don't think it would be Maatsen to Schlotterbeck, although who knows. If I want to go three at the back, which three defenders would you play? Hummels, Rudiger, and Carvajal. Valverde, Brandt, Cruz, Sancho, pick two. I would pick, I think I answered this by the way, Valverde and Brandt. Hummels captain, nope. Hey Dylan, just wanted to drop to say hello since I haven't missed any of the UCL streams this season. All I want to do is get the win, let Cruz have his send-off, and we had numerous injuries to deal with. Yeah, I mean, good luck, but I have to say, you've already got 14, allow the others a bit of something. Minus say will play two players we've covered. I think a lot of these questions are probably because, yeah, I'm kind of catching up to the chat now. I'm going to go through to new questions. There are rumours of Pep leaving City after the end of next season. There are, but his mind could certainly change. No one is mentioning Camavinga. That is true, but look at his fantasy returns. They aren't necessarily great. I wouldn't recommend buying Füllkrug. In case you're planning to buy a Madrid defender, bring in Nacho and not Mendy. As if we're trailing behind, we would probably shift Camavinga, is the word, left back, and bring Brahim Diaz in for Mendy. Yeah, that is a good point. And also, Nacho is the best for ball recoveries in that Madrid defence, so that's a good shout. And Nacho can play centre-back, left-back, and right-back. You think Modric can play a full 90 minutes? Well, he's on the bench, so no, I don't think so. Now, if he were to come off the bench, could he play, let's say, 60, 70 minutes, including extra time? Yeah, but yeah, Modric, he just doesn't start for Madrid anymore in the big games. Yeah, that one's covered, Steve. Good team. Germany choosing only Schlotterbeck and no Hummels is a disgrace. Yeah, but I'm sure Nagelsmann has his reasons, and international football is different to club football, but it does seem a bit strange because Hummels has been probably the best defender in the Champions League this season. What transfers are you going to make? Yeah, so I've made 4 transfers already. The 5th one isn't decided yet, and I'll let you know soon. Madrid Zone reports that Vinicius has had a fever. Do you think this affects his performance today? Yeah, we've had these sorts of things happen before. I think before both buying games, we had rumours of Bellingham having viruses and stuff like that. I'm going to check that myself, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. I mean, that could be enough, I think, to change the captaincy and go for something a bit different, but captaining Vinicius over Bellingham is a differential when you look at the grand scheme of things and all UCL fantasy players. Let me see this. I'm just seeing a lot of propaganda. I don't want to see that. Yeah, I haven't seen that. It's probably from yesterday, right? So yeah, if you've got a link, be sure to let me know. But yeah, I'm guessing it's from yesterday. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so 1 hour ago. So Madrid coaches found out in recent days that Vinicius was not in full health. He has had a fever in the last 2 days. There was a bit of concern from his environment to see in what conditions he could play tonight, but Vinicius has done everything from his side and took medicines. Today he got up and felt better. Well, he feels better, but yeah, he might not be at 100%. Is that an excuse for a stinker? Who knows? But yeah, we saw it with Bellingham already. Yeah, interesting, that's for sure, but it would be typical, right? By the way, this is not my team. That was my other team. Here we go. So yeah, this is my team now after making transfers. This is how my team was like before. So there's certainly an improvement. And I've got 4 Dortmund players at the moment in the lineup, but I might be going to 8 Madrid players overall after making the final change. Sabitzer or Brandt? Brandt for me. Brandt or Sancho? Both great, or at least both similarly. Yeah, I'd say they're both quite similar, but I'd go for Julian Brandt. Captain Sancho or Hummels? Hummels for me. Sancho or Sabitzer? Sancho. Fulkrug or Rodrigo? Rodrigo. Need one more defender with Hummels and Maatsen? Rudiger. Cyril XEXE says, hey Dylan, I'm 500 positions away from top 10k. Who is the best differential to get to break through that top 10k team? I would say Courtois in goal, and also captaining Rodrigo would be another one. Do I go defensive or more midfields? I'd probably say more defensive, but that's just my opinion. The best option for captain, probably Vinicius, but after what I just read out, you could argue Bellingham or Rodrigo could definitely rival him, probably in that order as well. Brandt or Sancho covered. Sabitzer versus Sancho, who to pick, also covered. Should I play Kroos or Sabitzer or play... Yeah, you asked this question before and I answered it, and I'm not sure what more you want. As a Madrid fan, I'm going to be way more involved supporting my team, so for fantasy, I just want the other way so I don't get double disappointed. Fair enough, I've done that before sometimes. Not to this extreme, not getting 8 players from a single club, but it is different in a UCL final. Hoping Dortmund win and going to take the risk and captain Hummels. Hope it goes well and good luck, Dylan. Likewise to Dindra. UCL Fantasy, the best fantasy game since you can make transfers till the first game of the match day. You can do this in Euro Fantasy as well and in World Cup Fantasy. But yeah, unlike World Cup Fantasy, you can't make transfers within a match day after the deadline has passed. But yeah, that's all fine. Kroos or Sabitzer? Kroos for me. What are your predictions for the Euros and Copa America? Well, Argentina are the favourites for Copa America, and they are the best team in it, but you can never write off Brazil. Yeah, I think Argentina-Brazil final is very likely, and I think the draw has also made that possible. But yeah, I'd say Argentina Copa America, hopefully they can win it again and make it 4 trophies in a row. As for Euros, I think that's more difficult to predict. I think England, France and Portugal stand out to me. I think those 3 teams look like the best ones, and I think England, and I normally don't say England, you know, because of the mentality. They've never won the Euros before, but I have a good feeling about them this time round. I think they can go all the way, although they have made some errors, I think, in the selections, but that kind of comes with the territory with Gareth Southgate. Thank you, Luis. I appreciate that, and good luck for the final. Best Real Madrid captain. I mean, pretty much the top 3 captains I've mentioned all streams. So Vinicius, Bellingham and Rodrigo in that order currently, but I might change it myself. Hola Dylan, Carvajal o Nacho. Es difícil porque Nacho es mejor para recuperar la pelota y Carvajal tiene más potencial ofensivamente. Yo pondría a Carvajal, pero no hay mucho para separarlos. I think Maatsen will get sent off, but that's just me. It's possible. He gets a lot of yellow cards, but he hasn't been sent off yet. Thoughts on Dortmund's new sponsor, given the recent events? I have seen something about that. I mean, it's very poor timing, by the way, because, I mean, look, it's obviously wrong. Morally, it's all wrong in the first place, but the fact they've released this a day before the final when everyone or most neutrals are supporting them is a bit weird. I don't think their PR team has ever raised this year, but yeah, look, it's very strange to say the least, and they're going to be using it in the Champions League final, right? Or you're going to see it. It's very, very strange. Nagelsmann choosing, I think that's Kokya over Hummels. Can he? Don't. Can be described in one sentence, and that it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Not sure what he's doing there, but like I mentioned earlier, club football is different to international football. Who else remembers Modric, Kroos, and Casemiro? Well, I think we all do. It was a great trio. I personally think, you know, there have been better ones in the past, but it is one of the best Champions League midfields of all time. Play Nacho or Maatsen? Nacho. I'm on 8 Dortmund. What can go wrong? A lot, but I hope for your sake it doesn't. Vinicius in the warming up and he seems well. Yeah, I think he's fine, but could he be subbed off a little bit earlier? Maybe. Is he going to be 100%? I'm not so sure. I say Uruguay will win Copa America while Argentina finish runners-up. Nah, come on, no. Can't happen. Both teams have 15 Copa Americas, so whoever wins it, if one of them were to win it, they'd kind of be the outright record holder. Look, Uruguay have had a good start on the Bielsa, but I do think it will come tumbling down. And Argentina are a better team, and they probably would have learned from last year and their game between Uruguay and Argentina. Is it worth to take a hit for the final? -4 or -8? Really, unless you're taking a hit for Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, or Hummels, I wouldn't do it. Hey Dylan, just curious, what errors do you think Southgate has made with the squad? Well, one of them is in relation to Ben White for me. I think he is currently England's best right back, but there is obviously a rift there between him and the assistant manager. and Gareth Southgate hasn't really handled the situation too well, in my opinion. Of course, I don't know all the ins and outs. Maybe White has more blame, that we don't know about, but I think that's one particular example of a mistake there. And also, if I remember this correctly, he has gone for Tony over Solanke. Yeah, I just don't really agree with that. Tony has been awful since returning from his suspension. Fellow says, thank you very much, by the way. Bruv, your Spanish is amazing. Cheers from Ecuador and good luck, my man. Yeah, I'm from Argentina. My Spanish isn't great compared to my English, but I speak it at home all the time, so I speak something. Loss, 8 points for 2 transfers. Not for me. I want to do it. Hoslu, Vinicius, and Fulkrug as the front three. I'd go for Rodrigo. I really would. I think he's better than Hoslu and Fulkrug. But yeah, you're on the right track. I just think Rodrigo has to be in it. I think Camavinga will get sent off. We're having a few red card predictions. Someone said Maatsen. Someone else says Camavinga. Add the Emil Fulkrug. Fulkrug. But quite close, Maybe I'm wrong about that. Oh, it's pronounced Kosh. Yeah, because this is the player who played for Leeds United, right? Yeah, so that's good, by the way. I don't want to say that again. So Kosh. Yeah, Kosh. Score prediction, Dylan. I've gone for 3-1 at the moment, but I might change it. And I've got the UCL predictor ready, just in case I want to make a change. Captain Rodrigo, if you want to go different, I think that's a good place to start. He's third in my rankings with Vinicius and Bellingham in the top 2. You know what? Let's do that as a poll, by the way. And then later on, maybe I'll put a pinned comment just in case, we get some repeated questions. But let's do a poll. And will you still captain Vinicius? Or I'm just going to do an updated captaincy poll. Vote for your Matchday 13 captain. Let's see what you lot are saying. If you want to have any other polls, let me know. Let's get this stream to 100 likes. We're very close to that. And thank you to the 300 people or so who have been watching the stream consistently throughout the entire duration. That's massively appreciated. So vote for your Matchday 13 captain. Let's get this show on the road. All right, so we'll put Vinicius. Should I put a caution next to his name? I mean, maybe that's a bit too much, but was ill in the last few days. Too much, yeah, too many. Was ill. In the last few days, in the recent days. Yeah, that'd be better. Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Harmon. So I think those are the 4 options I'm sticking to. The captaincy, of course, you can put someone else in the live chat and see what you think. But yeah, hopefully no musicals and stupid autocorrects. Yeah, we'll go for that. All right. Yeah, be sure to vote in the poll, and we'll see what you lot are saying. So yeah, Klopp and Mourinho at Wembley today. Yeah, Mourinho, the new Fenerbahce coach, and Jurgen Klopp. But don't think Jurgen Klopp is doing press duties, isn't he? I'm not watching any of the build-up. Once the game kicks off and the stream ends, I will be tuning in if it isn't a one-sided contest. For more points, Kroos or Sabitzer? Probably Kroos. I don't think either of them are great, to be honest. Bench 1, Kroos or Maatsen? I'd probably bench Maatsen. Lose 8 points for Brian and Sancho? Not for me. Elliot puts his team. Good luck to you as well. Very solid squad. Yeah, not so many problems with that whatsoever. I like the team. Yeah, it's looking very strong. Hopefully your differentials do the business. Is it possible to play 3-5-2? Yeah, it definitely is possible. I'm thinking Bellingham, Valverde, Kroos, Sabitzer, Brandt. Well, it's part of your 5 transfers, but yeah, 3-5-2 is possible. As long as it's an eligible formation, you're good to go. 3-5-2, 3-4-3, 4-4-2, 4-5-1, 4-3-3, 5-3-2, 5-2-3 all work. Chat, would you go for Sancho or Sabitzer? Yeah, good question. Obviously, I've made my feelings clear on this. I've gone for Sancho, but maybe someone else feels differently. Straben says, I need 5 transfers to fill my best 11, but I want to take a hit due to change Kobel to Courtois. No, just stick a Kobel. Honestly, I personally don't think it's worth a hit, especially when you have a goalkeeper in place, the highest scoring goalkeeper as well in UCL Fantasy this season. Bench Carvajal or Schlotterbeck? I'd probably bench Schlotterbeck. Yeah, true, Solanke was robbed, but he finally left out Hendo and Rashi. So you win some, you lose some. Yeah, look, and for example, with Argentina, I disagree with Scaloni leaving out Dybala. but they have their reasons, of course, and Southgate will know much more than me when it comes to building an England squad. He's done a good job as the England manager, but I do kind of question the mentality of the manager and the players, especially in the crucial moments, and this has been a historical issue with England in the first place. Man United's finished, says Klopp and Mourinho together watching ACL final is nice. Yeah, happened a few years ago between Mourinho and Wenger in 2019. If you have it, get one bench player. Players can be hurt in the warm-up. I've got one free transfer. I will be using it, but I'm just deciding on what to do with it. I don't know how, but I've somehow ended up with 5 at the back. 3 Madrid, 2 Dortmund. It's not a bad thing, though. Typically, you kind of want to avoid that in fantasy formats, but in UCL, with ball recoveries in mind, I think it can work out. Pick 3, says Mohammed. I would go for the first 3. Cruz, Brandt, and Sancho. Have 12 available, says Goldhead. Yeah, I've currently got 11. And I can get to 12 with my other transfer too. Play Maatsen or Brandt? Julian Brandt. Who's more likely to shoot penalties from Dortmund? That's a great question. I think it's Sabitzer. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Sabitzer. At 2K rank, would you start Maatsen or Hummels? Definitely Hummels for me. I know what you're saying. Hummels higher owned, so it might be safe to go for him. But yeah, it has to be Hummels for me. He has 91 points in UCL Fantasy this season, 26 more than second place Bellingham from the remaining players. It has to be Hummels for me. Cheers, Dylan, for the streams. Stuck with Brandt captain. See you later for the Euros. Yeah, good luck, Nuclear Atoms. Enjoy the game, and I'll see you for the Euros too. Bellingham masterclass against his former side. That has crossed my mind, and that's why in the predictor, I've got Bellingham as my player of the match, and I've got Vinicius captain in UCL Fantasy. I might even reverse that and go for Vinicius here, and in UCL Fantasy I go for Bellingham. But yeah, it definitely could happen. I have the Limitless chip available. Who should I start and bench? So as I covered in the best Limitless and wildcard team video and podcast, I'd probably go for Courtois and goal, Hummels, Rudiger, Carvajal, and Mendy as part of a back 4, Valverde, Bellingham, Sancho, and Brandt as the midfield 4, with Vinicius and Rodrigo up front. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Sabitzer is the main penalty taker for Dortmund, if I'm not mistaken, and it's very tricky deciding between those 3 Dortmund midfielders and also leaving out players like Schlotterbeck, who are very good for ball recoveries and even better than anyone you can get from Madrid. But to be honest, another player that has crossed my mind in the defence is Nacho. I think he's probably the best from Real Madrid in terms of ball recovery, so you could argue he's better than Ferland Mendy, actually. So I think that's what would change from that video and podcast. That's the only change I'd make. Nacho in for Ferland Mendy. Carvajal or Rudiger or Maatsen? Rudiger. Sancho or Chan? Sancho. Fulkrug or Rodrigo? Rodrigo. I'm in 700th in the world. Good stuff, Tour 2. Good luck, and hopefully you get to another green arrow and see if you can get top 500. Screw it, I'm going to captain Valverde. Why not? I mean, yeah, it's the last one. Everyone has an identical team, and these sorts of punts can pay off. And this guy has produced in a Champions League final before. He got the assist for Vinicius against Liverpool several years ago. No, sub points don't count towards your score, and substitutions won't take place unless someone in your starting 11 misses out and then automatic subs take place. That's the only way subs work. I have just 3 Dortmund players. Not really a bad thing. I do think they're better in terms of UCL fantasy points compared to Madrid, generally speaking, but for this matchup, I think that's the right thing. Camavinga or Brandt? Brandt for me. Yep, as I mentioned earlier, Mohammed, I'd go for the first 3. Nice stuff, FPL Hawk. I'm 285th in the world, captaining Rodrigo. Good luck. Schlotterbeck or Maatsen? Schlotterbeck. Valverde or Sabitzer? Valverde. I have the Limitless. Can you give me the best 11? I did it a few minutes ago, so be sure to let me know what you think. I'm in a mini league. Camavinga, good differential. He's okay. You just never know who's going to pop up with the goal or the assist to win it, but I do think there are better options. Yeah, I've seen a few people mention it. I'm not sure where that's coming from. I think Mourinho's with TNT Sports, isn't he? Differential players, please. Just got 4. Well, Rodrigo for me, 16% ownership isn't a major differential, but going for him and captaining him, I think that is definitely one. Courtois in goal. I'd also say Nacho as a defender would be a pick. In the midfield, I'd also look at probably Sancho. Sancho, I think Brandt is still a differential, isn't he? Yeah. I think those are the sorts of players I'd go for. Dybala was left out for an Argentina, from an Argentine from Monza for the Copa America. Yeah, look, I'm not sure exactly why Dybala was left out. Probably because he's never really been able to fit into the system and he kind of clashes with Messi. But Dybala's a quality player who off the bench can do something. He scored in the Finalissima final against Italy to kill that game. I think he just has that extra something that Argentina could do with on the bench. Fulkrug or Adeyemi? Fulkrug, but it's close. One free transfer left. I have Kobel. Do I transfer Courtois or use my other transfer in other positions? Depends who you have elsewhere. I don't know who you have in your outfield positions, but yeah, I think Kobel to Courtois is fine. I wouldn't do it for a hit though. As mentioned earlier, it should be Sabitzer. At 700 rank, who would you captain, Vinicius or Rodrigo? Well, Vinicius is safer, so to speak, and I personally think he's a better option in general. So yeah, my answer is Vinicius, but it's up to you what you want to do. You are in 700 in the world, so you can push on. Just back your gut no matter what you do. Bellingham player of the match, even though he hasn't been good recently. Well, as I mentioned earlier, facing his former club, and I'm also captaining Vinicius at the moment in UCL Fantasy, so I'm covering all bases here by going for Bellingham captain, or as the player of the match in this game as well, in the predictor. But you know what? We've only got 50 minutes left. It's time to lock in my fifth and final transfer. I'm going to put another poll out and end this one currently. Vinicius is still the top pick for the captaincy with over half of the votes. In second is Bellingham, Rodrigo third, and Hummels fourth, but quite close between the rest. Vinicius is a standout, it seems, between engaged managers. I'll just wait until he gets 200 votes, and then I'm going to be putting out another poll, which is in relation to my final transfer of UCL Fantasy. So yeah, thank you to those that have voted. Let's now put another poll, and I'll catch up to the chat very soon. By the way, a massive shout out to all channel members, patrons, and those that send in super chats. You're massively appreciated. And yeah, if you are a channel member or patron, there is content available to you, which isn't available to subscribers yet. And that is the how to play guide for Euro Fantasy and an updated draft for Matchday 1. And very soon I will be also making available to channel members and patrons a chip strategy guide for Euro Fantasy. So which of these transfers do you prefer? So let's bring them in. Yeah, so I'd say Nacho, Mendy, Schlotterbeck. I mean, you just can't have, yeah, it's too many options, isn't it? Schlotterbeck. You know, I'm going to stick with Nacho over Mendy. So Nacho, Schlotterbeck, Kroos, and the other option will be Sancho, I think. Those are the four players I'm looking at. Yep. So be sure to vote here as well. And keep on smashing the like button and getting this to over 150 likes. Sancho or Brandt, I would go for Julian Brandt, but it's very close. Haru Riley says Vinicius, Fulkrug, Kroos, Bellingham, Valverde, Sabitzer, Sancho, Carvajal, Hummels, and Schlotterbeck. Any thoughts? Looks good to me. I'm guessing you've used your 5 free transfers already. If that's the case, that's absolutely fine. Because if you have something remaining, I would recommend Courtois in goal. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm favouring Madrid in this game. You've got a bit of a balance, actually, between both teams, which is absolutely fine, to be fair. Thanks, Dylan, for all the help, tips and thoughts this season. Very much appreciated. Hope you enjoy the match. Likewise, thank you very much for the kind words. And yeah, just enjoy the final. Bellingham might play for BVB next season, and that's Joe Bellingham. Yeah, that is true. Trying to recreate that magic there. It's kind of awkward. I mean, how weird is it for Bellingham to join Madrid and to face Dortmund, his former club, in his first season in a Champions League final? That is crazy. It's an Alex Hunter storyline from FIFA 17. Not really. Look, Fulkrug is decent, but if you look at his returns this season, 5-6 points, and don't get me wrong, I take 5-6 points from all of my players in Matchday 13, but he just doesn't have a high ceiling, and I do think the likes of Sancho and all the other players in the poll, they can do more in terms of 6 points. They can better that with a clean sheet and ball recoveries or getting attacking contributions and player of the match awards. Renato says, ¿Qué tal? Todos escogerán a Vinicius de capitán. Estoy pensando hacer la diferencia de elegir capitán a Hummels. ¿Es buena idea? Es buena idea. Y Hummels está cuarto en mi lista de capitanes. Pero yo prefiero a Bellingham y Rodrigo en vez de Hummels. Pero yo también creo que Real Madrid va a ganar el partido. Quizás 3-1 o 2-0. Así que Es una buena idea, pero yo creo que Bellingham, Vinicius y Rodrigo son mejores capitanes para la jornada 13. Brandt or Sancho? Yeah, I've been asked this to death. I'm going to say Brandt, but it's honestly 50-50. Back your gut on that one. Sancho is leading the vote at the moment with 32% of the vote. Cruz is second with 27%. Yeah, Nacho is actually last there, which is fair enough, you know. I can understand what you're doing there. I might actually go for Nacho. That's the most likely transfer, I think, even though he's got the least votes. Fulkrug is on penalty, says Karim. Yeah, you might be right. I think it's Fulkrug, then it's Sabitzer. I'm going to double check that, though, because I think several weeks ago it was Sabitzer taking the penalties. So just give me a second. I'll double check this for you. So the last penalty Dortmund had... I have to double check this. I think it was Sabitzer. Yeah, so the last penalty Dortmund had, I think, was against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and it was Sabitzer who took it. So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to check if in recent games they've had a penalty. Don't think so. Let's see. Just checking. Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the last penalty was by Sabitzer. So I'm going to stick with that. But if any Dortmund fans are in the house, be sure to correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Brandt or Sancho, actually Brandt. Bench Rudiger over Ryerson. I'd start Rudiger, personally. Choose two between Sancho, Brandt, Sabitzer. Probably Sancho and Brandt. But Sabitzer is on penalties. Who do you see playing in the Finalissima, Dylan? I say France and Uruguay. Well, as I mentioned, for Copa America, I think Argentina are the most likely to win it, and I hope that's the case. So yeah, I'd say Argentina and... I'd say England. Why not? Let's say Argentina, England. But, of course, it's quite difficult. You've got Brazil in Copa America, and of course in Euros you've got a few others that could really... I think Germany could go really far in this tournament, as an example. But yeah, I'll say Argentina, England, my two countries. Imagine Joe versus Jude in the UCL next season. Well, he's Alex Hunter in real life, isn't he? So, yeah, we could see that. Hummels captain. Good luck, courage. I wish you the best. Honestly, I hope it pays off. Start Maatsen or Hummels. Hummels. Hummels has to start for me, 100%. Fulkrug starting over Sabitzer, Brandt or Sancho. I wouldn't start Fulkrug over any of them, personally. But if I had to pick one, it'd be Sabitzer. Best five midfielders for this final. Bellingham, Valverde, Sancho, Brandt, and Toni Kroos. It's Fulkrug, then Emre Can, says Wenki. Sabitzer took it when both went on the pitch. Okay, fair enough. You probably know. You might be right about that. So Sabitzer's second, third in command, isn't it? Interesting. What about Dortmund win 1-0? I wouldn't mind it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Madrid will score. Royce took it. Well, Royce is a good penalty taker, but he doesn't really start games for Borussia Dortmund. So, yeah, unless it's that late penalty, you're not really going to see that. Mendy or Carvajal? Carvajal. Had a really fun time with the streams this UCL. See you for the Euros and in the next UCL campaign. Thank you very much. I look forward to that. Did Sabitzer take it because Fulkrug was not on the pitch? I think he's right. I think that was the case. Dortmund haven't had a penalty since the match against Borussia Mönchengladbach, which is back in early April, if I'm not mistaken. France and Portugal Euro final. Not again. Kobo and Sancho, Brandt, or Courtois and Sabitzer. I would go for Kobo and... You know what? I'm going to go for Courtois and Sabitzer there. Not much in it, though. I have Courtois and Kobo. Who should I start? I'd go for Courtois. Best goalkeeper? You got it. Nacho or Schlotterbeck? Already starting Hummels. Nacho for me. Sancho or Brandt? I would go for Julian Brandt. Thank you, Afroza. Hugo Cipriano says Hummels, Schlotterbeck, Brandt, Kroos, or Hummels, Carvajal, Sabitzer, Brandt. So basically, it's Carvajal or Schlotterbeck and Kroos or Sabitzer. I would go for the second option with Hummels, Carvajal, Sabitzer, Brandt. Chan is the penalty taker. Other players have taken it when he wasn't on the pitch. Okay, I appreciate it. You're probably right. So basically, Sabitzer is the third penalty taker. Wait, is Luna not playing? Nope, he's on the bench. I've discussed this in all my videos and podcasts. It's been touted for weeks now that Courtois will start the Champions League final. That was always the plan. Thank you, Mood, and good luck for this match day. I'm watching the UCL final and some guys singing. Yeah, they always do this. For FA Cup final, they sing the national anthem. And obviously for UCL, they do some stuff, don't they? I think, isn't it? I think it's Kravitz, right? Who's singing right now. Thanks, bro. Just came back. No worries. Be sure to lock in your teams. We've got just over 5 minutes left. Best Madrid defender. For me, it's Rudiger or Nacho. Well, it's tricky because I bought Carvajal, for example. But you know what? I think I'm going to buy Nacho as well. If you look at the points per match day and the ball recoveries, I do think Nacho is a good one, actually. Valverde or Carvajal? Valverde. Is my team good? Bring 11th player with a -4? No, because you've got Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham, and Hummels already. Yeah, just stick with 10 in my opinion, and you're good to go. That's the way I see it. If you want to take a hit, you're backing a certain player that you haven't got yet, back your gut. But I personally wouldn't take the hit. So let me lock in this team before I forget. So I think I'm going to buy, by the way, this is not updated. So I'm going to buy, yeah, I think I'm just going to get Mr. Nacho, which seems very crazy, right? But I'm going to go a bit all in on the Madrid defense, which could be an issue. But it is what it is, you know. It is what it is. So let's buy Nacho. Let's see if this turns out to be an absolute disaster. Sancho averaging 4.5 points per match day. Yeah, but it all came in one game pretty much. And look, Sancho can do something, but I think I'm going to go for Nacho. I know some of you might be thinking, what are you doing, Dylan? But you know what? I've got a gut feeling about Nacho. Let's see how it goes. So my final transfer is going to be a defender one, it looks like. Good luck to us all, Raja, and thank you to 2000 Man. Yeah, Lenny Kravitz, yeah. I forgot the first name, I'm not going to lie, but yeah, Kravitz. I'm not watching it, by the way. I just remember a few weeks ago that they announced there was Kravitz. Who the hell is Kravitz? Well, okay, let's put it into context. Have you seen The Batman with Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz? Well, Zoe Kravitz's father is Mr. Lenny Kravitz. So yeah, there you go. Just to put into context for the young people out there, you know, like myself. So yeah, let's make this transfer and stop chatting rubbish. I can't do that, but I'm going to try. So Nacho in for Marquinhos, even though it's Cruz's last game and yada, yada, yada. It is what it is. So let's bring in Nacho. And I think I'm going to sub out Maatsen, you know. Oh, I hope this doesn't come back to bite me. I mean, Maatsen has been a very good option this season. Sub it, sir. Oh my God. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? You know what? I think I'm going to go... Am I going to go 5-3-2? Am I? I think I am. So yeah, this could be my final team. I'm not saying it is, just to, you know, putting out there. It's Sabitzer or Maatsen for the final slot. So let me know in the live chat what you would go for, just with the one-word answer. But yeah, I think I'm just going to... Doesn't really matter, by the way, the order, but I'm just going to put Sabitzer there. Yeah. That's a tricky one. That is a tricky one. But I'm going all in around Madrid, that's for sure. It's just down to that final player that I'm kind of conflicted about. Best forwards, Vinicius and Rodrigo, without a shadow of a doubt. If you were to go for a third, I'd probably say Fulkrug. Thank you as well. So thank you, Dylan, for the whole season. Likewise, and I hope to see you in the Euro streams as well. Mendy, Carvajal, and Maatsen, which two to start? Carvajal and I'd say Maatsen, but yeah, it's kind of it's a tricky one, isn't it? It is a tricky one because if you don't have any other Dortmund defensive coverage, then yeah, Maatsen is the one. But if you've already got Hummels and you've got Kobel, I'd reconsider. BVB lost the UCL final in Wembley 11 years ago. Yes, they did. Who's Lenny Kravitz? I just explained to you, man. Come on. He's a famous singer and musician. Nacho's last game for Real Madrid tonight too. Yeah, he's heavily linked to Inter Miami. Yeah, we're seeing a few last games tonight. I can't decide my captain. I haven't really thought about it too much in terms of, you know, I've said all along Vinicius Jr. I'll probably stick to it. Yeah, I can understand your kind of conflict and your frustrations, but I'm going for Vinicius right now. If you want to go a bit different, my recommendation is Rodrigo. Sancho or Valverde or Cruz or Sabitzer. Valverde for me. 5-3-2. Geez, go big or go home. Love it. I don't like 5-3-2s. you got a tough choice to make. I don't know what to say. Yeah, fair enough. I don't listen to his music either, but I don't think he's that bad. Team pretty much the same, just no Nacho. Who knows at this point? Kroos or Rudiger Nacho? I'd say Rudiger or Nacho. Royce's last game for BVB, maybe for Hummels too. Yeah, we'll wait and see about Hummels. He said he's not going to America, if I'm not mistaken, so he might go to another team in Europe. That's his aim, to stay in the continent. But yeah, we've got 30 seconds left. Sabitzer or Maatsen is definitely causing me some headaches, but I'm not going to lie. I just see Madrid winning this game. Yeah, you know, I'm bringing Sabitzer in for Maatsen. I just don't see Dortmund keeping a clean sheet. So 4-4-2, as I've always discussed, is my plan. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this. I know Maatsen has been better than Sabitzer in terms of points per match day, and he has been very good for me. Let's see how it pans out. But that is my final team for the Champions League. Vinicius as my captain. Very boring, I know. Boring, Dylan. I've gone for Courtois in goal, Nacho, Carvajal, Rudiger, and Hummels as part of the back four. Bellingham, Valverde, Sabitzer, and Brandt completing the midfield. Vinicius and Rodrigo up front with Vinicius captain. And we're locked in. The game has begun. Good luck for the Champions League final. And also for my prediction, I've covered all bases. Bellingham is my player of the match, with Madrid to score first, 3-1 Madrid, and the booster is active. If this ends up being another low-scoring affair, I'm just going to have to question myself and say, when are you going to learn, Dylan? You know, because every single time I'm like, yeah, 2-1, 3-1, and it ends up being 1-0, and it's just boring. Let's wait and see. I voted Nacho. Fair enough. Yeah, it was kind of the lowest selected pick in the poll. And yeah, the poll's still going on. I'll end it now. But Kroos won it with 34%, Sancho second with 31%, Schlotterbeck third, and then Nacho with just 14% of the vote. Thank you, Bridgerton. Good luck as well for the final. Okay, that makes sense. 4-4-2. And look, I don't necessarily trust Sabitzer that much. Maybe I should have made a move for Sancho or something like that, or Toni Kroos, but I just had a feeling about defenders in this match day. I've had that feeling throughout all my videos and podcasts, so I'm going to stick with that gut feeling. Inter Miami now buying Nacho. Are they doing a challenge that is signing El Clasico players? And also Di Maria. So we could see a scenario where Di Maria goes to Rosario Central for a few months up until January, and then he's going to go to Inter Miami. He might even join them directly from Benfica. Who knows? But yeah, they're buying everyone, it seems. I'm going Sancho captain. I wish you the best, Miguel, and hopefully we see an entertaining game. Same team by a Fulkrug over Nacho. Good luck. That's going to be interesting. So not much in it between us. That will basically determine it. Whether Fulkrug can do something, if Nacho gets booked or loses the clean sheet. Let's wait and see. Where is Royce going after BVB? Gladbach, MLS? Gladbach is a good shout, where things began for him. I think MLS does seem pretty decent. Someone just invaded the pitch already. And yeah, I'm not watching the game right now. I will be after this stream is over. But yeah, just everything's covered. My prediction is here on screen. Let me know what you're going for in terms of scorelines in the live chat. And yeah, back to my awesome team. That is not it, because otherwise I'd be in trouble. So yeah, so far, so good. Everyone's got 1 point. Decent. Don't check your scores throughout the game. That's definitely something I want to recommend to you. But thank you to everyone watching for all your support. It's been massively appreciated. And if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this stream to over 150 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 24,000 subscribers and beyond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for my Patreon, the Championships Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, Draft Hound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. And by the way, once again, massive shout out to all channel members, patrons, those that send in super chats. You can watch the How to Play guide for Euro Fantasy and the updated draft if you are a channel member or patron. So be sure to check it out after the Champions League final. Royce could have been a monster if injuries didn't screw him up. He was still quite a good player, all things considered. But yeah, unfortunately, there are many examples of top quality players who could have been, you know, legends, absolute legends, but injuries ruined them. Thank you, GSM. Thanks all season for sharing your talent and in-depth scouting. Well, I appreciate it. Look, I've gotten some things right, some things wrong, but ultimately it's down to you with the decision making. Now more people are invading the pitch. Oh, that's good. It's giving me time to watch the Champions League final. FPL Bruce Wayne says, all the best, Dylan. Likewise to you. We will see back for the Euros. Yes, in just 13 days' time, on the Friday, 14th of June, I will be streaming for Euro Fantasy. That will be the next stream in the meantime, there'll be Euro Fantasy content in terms of videos and podcasts on the way. There's 3 people invading. Do they have a message or something? They probably do, don't they, at this point? It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But yeah, thank you to everyone for tuning in. And this has been, 2 hours? We're just under 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, you could say stretch it to 2 hours, but no, I'm going to go watch the Champions League final. And if you have any other thoughts, comments, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you. The same goes for the Discord server and on Twitter and Instagram. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Take care, enjoy the football. Let's see what happens in this Champions League final and throughout the Euros during the summer. And I'll see you next time.